Before we get into Rachel's story, if you haven't watched episode 1 and episode 2 yet, stop right now and go watch them first. The link is in the description, because what you're about to hear tonight only makes sense if you know about Harlan and Gerald. 3 neighbors, 3 properties. One thing connecting all of them that I am only beginning to understand. Pause. If you've been here since episode 1, you already know what I mean. You've already been asking the same question I have. What are these men protecting that land from? Tonight, we get closer to finding out. And if this series has been keeping you up at night, hit subscribe right now. Because what Rachel found in that soil changes everything we thought we knew about Harlan and Gerald. Episode 3 starts now. Rachel is 43. She is a nurse. Intensive care. 12 years. If you want to know what kind of person Rachel is, know this. She has held the hands of dying strangers in the small hours of the morning and kept her voice steady. She has made clinical decisions under conditions of extreme stress that other people could not have made. She is not someone who frightens easily, and she knows the difference between genuine threat and perceived threat because her job has required her to make that distinction under pressure more times than she can count. She moved to the rural property in Clearwater County in the upper Midwest 2 years ago with her husband Tom, who is a civil engineer. They chose the location deliberately. 22 acres, complete privacy, no visible neighbors, the nearest town 40 minutes away. Tom had grown up in a city and wanted, in his 40s, to understand what quiet actually felt like. Rachel supported the move. She thought the stillness would help her decompress between shifts. Their only neighbor within 4 miles was a man she knows only as Mr. Voss. He owns the land to the west. She doesn't know how many acres. She has never been able to find his first name in any record she has searched. He has been on his property for an unknown period of time. The county assessor's records go back 12 years, and he is there in all of them. Before that, the trail goes cold in a way Rachel describes as unusual, like the records were never filed or were filed under something she can't identify. In 22 months of living next door to him, Rachel and Tom saw Voss in person a total of 4 times. He does not come to the road. He does not appear to go to town. Deliveries are left at the end of a long dirt track that leads to his property. He exists, Rachel told me, like something that grew there, like the trees. The first 10 months were quiet. Voss left them alone. They left him alone. Their dog Birch, a 7-year-old Labrador who had never shown aggression toward anything in his life, who had lived in 2 different cities and once slept through a thunderstorm that knocked out power to their entire street, ran the western edge of the property every morning without incident. And then one morning in month 11, Birch stopped. He went to within 30 feet of the western fence line, planted his feet in the grass, and refused to go further. His hackles were up, that ridge of raised fur along the spine that Rachel had never seen on him before. He wasn't barking. He was producing a sound she described as a continuous low vibration. Not quite a growl. Something more fundamental than that, like a frequency. Pause. Tom walked the fence line looking for predators, coyotes, bear sign. He found nothing. No tracks, no disturbed earth, no scat. What he did find was a series of objects on Voss's side of the fence, set at intervals of approximately 10 feet along the full length of the boundary. Wooden stakes, rough cut, about 2 feet high, driven into the ground. Each one had something bound to the top, a bundle of sticks, thin wire twisted around them, and what appeared to be animal bone. Small bones, wrapped tight with dark cord and tied in a specific configuration that Tom couldn't identify but described as deliberate. Not random, like something that had a meaning. There were 27 stakes along the fence line. Tom counted them. Rachel looked up every agricultural, cultural, and folk practice she could find that involved fence markers. She found nothing that matched exactly. She told herself it was something local, something old, something she simply lacked the context to understand. She told herself that for 4 months, month 13, Rachel was driving home from a night shift at 11 p.m., coming down the county road toward their property. Her headlights swept across the end of Voss's driveway and picked up a figure standing at the road. She slowed instinctively. Rural roads at night. A person standing at the road. The assumption being that someone needed help. As she got closer, she realized it was Voss. She had seen him once before, briefly, at a distance. Close up, in her headlights, he was tall. Thin in the way of people who eat very little. He was wearing a heavy coat despite it being the middle of July. He was not flagging her down. He was not doing anything. He was standing at the edge of his property in the dark, facing the road, watching her car approach. She drove past. In the rearview mirror, she watched him rotate slowly, his whole body turning.
Month 15, 2:17 a.m. Birch woke them with the most violent alarm response Rachel had ever heard from him. Not fear, but emergency. The bark of a dog communicating that something was wrong right now. Rachel went to the bedroom window. The window faced west toward the tree line. And in the tree line, moving through the trees on Voss's side of the fence, near the boundary, there were lights. Not flashlights. The quality was wrong for flashlights. Too diffuse, too sourceless, like something that produced light rather than projected it. There were at least 4 of them. Possibly more. Moving in no pattern Rachel could identify, appearing and disappearing between the trees. Tom stood beside her. They watched for 22 minutes. Neither of them spoke. At 3:04 a.m., the lights were gone. Birch didn't settle until sunrise. Tom went back to bed. Rachel sat in the kitchen until the light came up and did not look at the window. Month 17 is when Rachel stopped being able to explain Tom. It began small. He started taking evening walks that ended at the western tree line. He would stand there for 15, 20, 30 minutes, looking toward Voss's property. When Rachel asked what he was doing, he said he was getting air, clearing his head, enjoying the evening. Tom had never in their 12 years of marriage stood outside alone for 30 minutes for any reason. He started sleeping less. Not anxiously, not tossing, not restless. He would simply be awake. She would surface at 2 or 3 a.m. and find his side of the bed empty and see the bedroom window open and hear him in the dark outside. She asked him about it once. He said he liked the night air. He said it helped him think. She watched him more carefully after that. She is a nurse. She knows how to observe without appearing to observe. What she noticed was this. He was the same. He was warm, attentive, present. He laughed at the right times. He remembered things. He was not behaving like someone under duress or someone having a breakdown. He was behaving like Tom, except for the walks to the fence, except for the open window at 2 a.m., except for the way he occasionally paused in the middle of a sentence and looked west with an expression that Rachel could only describe as listening. 3 weeks ago, Rachel was in her car in the driveway, about to leave for a morning shift. She was running 3 minutes late, and she was irritated with herself, and she glanced toward the tree line as she reversed and stopped. Tom was at the fence, standing at the western boundary in the early morning light, and standing on the other side of the fence, on Voss's side, was Voss. They were facing each other, talking, or at least positioned as if they were talking, close enough to speak at low volume, their body language carrying the ease of a conversation between 2 people who have spoken before, many times before. Rachel sat in her car. She did not get out. She did not honk. She watched. She watched for 38 minutes before she had to leave, or she would miss her shift. They were still at the fence when she drove away. That evening, she told Tom she had seen him talking to Voss that morning. She kept her voice light, curious, non-accusatory. Tom said yes. Voss had come to the fence to introduce himself properly. He seemed like a decent man. Private, kept to himself. They'd had a brief chat. Rachel asked what they talked about. Tom thought about it. He said he couldn't really remember specifically. Just general things. Getting to know each other. She asked how long they had been talking. Tom said maybe 10 minutes. 15 at the most. Rachel looked at him. Her husband of 12 years. A man she knows in the specific way you only know someone after a decade of shared life. His tells, his habits, his particular way of being slightly wrong when he is lying about something small. He was not displaying any of those tells. He genuinely believed it had been 10 minutes. She did not tell him it had been 38. 4 days ago, Rachel sent me an update. She had been to the fence line during the day, while Tom was inside. She wanted to check the markers, Voss's wooden stakes with the bone bundles. She had been checking them periodically since Tom found them in month 11. There were new ones. More of them. Placed in the gaps between the original stakes, so the fence line was now marked at intervals of approximately 5 feet, rather than 10. But that is not the part that made Rachel sit in the grass and be unable to stand up for several minutes. The new markers were on her side of the fence. Not Voss's side. Her side. Someone had crossed onto their property and driven new stakes into the ground on Rachel and Tom's land. The same construction. Rough wood, wire, bone bundles, dark cord. But positioned on her side, facing inward toward the house. Rachel pulled one out of the ground. She turned it over in her hands. The bones in the bundle, she is a medical professional. She knows bone, were not animal. The proportions were wrong for any animal she could identify. Rachel is still on that property. She is still married to Tom. She has not told Tom about the markers on their side of the fence. She is not sure how he would respond. She is not sure, she told me, that the Tom who would respond is still entirely Tom. She has contacted the county sheriff. A deputy is scheduled to come out next week. She doesn't have high expectations. She told me, "I know how this conversation goes. I've had it in my head 100 times. I'll show them the markers. They'll note them. They'll speak to Voss. And then I'll be alone out here again, with whatever Voss tells them satisfied." She is making a plan. She is not ready to share it yet. She asked me to hold certain details until she is in a safer position to have them public. What I can tell you is this. In the last 2 weeks, Rachel has documented 3 more instances of Tom at the window at 2 a.m. She has audio of the last one. Tom speaking quietly into the dark. And from somewhere outside, from the direction of the western tree line, something responding. She sent me the audio. I have listened to it 11 times. I am not going to describe what the response sounds like. Not yet. Not until I understand it better. What I will tell you is that it is not Tom. It is not any voice I have ever heard. And it is not any sound I can account for, with what I know about the natural world. Volume 2 is coming. Rachel is still sending updates. Something is building out there on that property. And I believe we are close to understanding what it is. Or as close as anyone gets to understanding something like this. Rachel is still there. As of the last message she sent me 4 days ago, She is still on that property. Still next to Voss. Still watching Tom. Still sleeping with the door locked. She said something to me in that last message that I keep coming back to. She said, "I think the scariest part isn't Voss. The scariest part is that Tom seems happy." 3 stories now. Owen and Carol, gone. Margot, gone. Rachel, still there. And connecting all 3, this feeling that the neighbors weren't the origin of the threat. They were the response to it. Harlan waiting for the right people. Gerald running his perimeter checks. Voss and his markers along the fence. What are they keeping out? What happens when they stop? What has already gotten through? Episode 4 is the finale. I have Rachel's full update. I have what Tom said at the fence that Rachel wasn't supposed to hear. I have what we found out about Voss's property, how long he's really been there, and what was on that land before him. And I have the name Voss uses for whatever comes out of those woods at night. Subscribe. Episode 4 is coming. Some questions are going to get answered, some aren't. That's how real horror works. Keep the lights on